Hey, welcome aboard to the A Game as I'm here at the Share Universe Studios here on the Jersey Shore. I'm Rob Akampora, and I had to get this guy on for two reasons. One, you see the name of this show? That name has been copyrighted by this man circa 2001, I believe, and it was in our working together. Ming, can I have photo number 3, please? Because this is where I met him. Right here in the Delaware Valley at 93.7 WSTW, which I proudly served nearly 10 years of my life with that radio station. It was a great experience and got a great friend of over 20 years out of it. Unfortunately, he left me because he wanted to go into the Texas suburb, the Dallas suburbs to be exact, and work for a really good radio station called KLAK, and that's where his wife Julie is from. Johnny B came back to the Delaware Valley to work for Mix 99.5 WJBR, and now was doing some work on 98 Rock, which was his sort of dream station. And now he's here with me. Somehow the tide is going downward, but I'm glad he's here. Johnny, Julie, thanks for coming on board.
Oh, man. A-Game, it's great to be here. And right off the bat in pure style, we lied because your logo says talking to people who achieve their goals. So I'm sorry after 99 podcasts to bring one down. Still trying to figure out what we want to be when we grow up. But, man, it's great. You know what? We have a friend, Jason, that used to call us all the time. And he once said, you and Rob Akampora need to do a show because you could call it the A and the B.
It took to this to finally have that happen. But Jason,
tonight, that comes true tonight. And I was just saying before we hit the airways, I was saying, I think we've never done a show together.
No, never came to before we did. No, I mean, I spent 10 years, almost 10 years at STW.
Always at opposite ends of the spectrum.
Yeah, Johnny was doing mornings when I was doing
afternoons. Yeah, I was doing mornings. You were doing nights.
Yep. It just never came to.
Well, we got to start the story. We got to start the story of how I actually knew that you worked at STW. I don't know if you've heard this story, but it's phenomenal.
I'm going to set you up.
Things about working in broadcasting. Okay.
I'll set you up because Johnny and I actually met at a concert about a year and a half before at a venue called Kahunaville down in Wilmington, which was such a unique venue, the way it was set up on the riverfront. And they got some of the best names that you could find doing concerts in Wilmington. So we became friends and, we'll exchange an email or two, a phone call or two. But then all of a sudden, my life changed and I get a phone call from his then boss, Mike Rossi. And suddenly he's in the building. He's listening to, keep in mind, in our building, you could hear WSTW throughout the building. And he hears, oh, Rob's on the air. And I think when he went through the door, the jaw dropped like, what? What is happening here? How the hell did you wind up here? And the rest is history. But I'll let you take it from there.
It's funny because we often say in radio, we often say we're the worst communicators ever, and we're in the communications business. So it was. I came in on a Sunday, and I'm way in the back doing something. And first of all, I didn't flinch. I go, oh, Rob's on the air. And then I go, wait a minute, when did Rob start working here? So I go from the back of the building. The studio's in the front. Most people kept the door open. And I walk in and I see Rob behind the mic and I'm like, when'd you start working here, man? I didn't know that. I said, this is awesome, man.
His first act after I got off the air, he takes me to Stanley's Tavern, sits me down and basically explains, oh, you're going to wind up here. You're going to wind up full time. I'm like, B, I'm here for about 6 months. I'm going to get my next job. And that's that. Next thing I know, 9 months later, all of a sudden they offer me a contract and they go, I can't live in this. No, here's the bonus courtesy of your very good friend, Johnny B. And suddenly I'm going, 2 years free rent. Give me the frickin' pen I'm signing right now. The rest was history. It's your husband there, Julie, that hooked me up my first apartment. That cost me nothing for 2 years. Thank you, Johnny.
It's the least I could do. It was great too. And it was like right after that, I stopped calling him Rob. I didn't call him Rob. Anytime I saw him, I said, what's up, A-Game? What's up, A-Game? Or I just say, Game, what's up? But I always called him A-Game.
Right.
And then I finally said to Mike Rossi at the time, you got to let Rob call himself A-Game, man. I mean, that's what it is. I never heard Rob ever do a bad show. I mean, he always brought his A-game. That's why I nicknamed him that. And I said to Mike Rossi, you got to he can't be Rob anymore. He's got to be A-Game. And boom, man.
Your instincts were dead.
I don't think I ever call you Rob when I'm talking to you.
No, you don't. To this day. Come on.
Cell phone is A-Game.
Yeah, you're in my cell phone as A-Game.
A-Game. Of course I am. Oh, don't forget, that name I associate with Johnny no matter what. And that persona, so to speak, was just basically me with a cool nickname. And I didn't think it was going to stick. And then when it did, I was like, this is cool. This is really, really cool. I'm glad he did that. And I remember you introduced and saying, he said it on the air. You know what I love about Rob? He always brings his A-game. And he was saying it on the air. And then all of a sudden, I started using it. And then, boom, it clicked. And still to this day, I'm just amazed how well it clicked.
Yeah, I mean, when I call you, I don't have you in my cell phone as Rob. There's a couple times I looked up under Rob, and I'm like, what did I delete? And then I go, oh, man, I never call him Rob. And it's in my cell phone as A-Game. So,
of course.
I mean, yeah, and it was it fit your personality. It fit who you were. It fit how you did that nighttime show, which was phenomenal. And I remember then at the end of our ratings period, Jill and I were always off for 2 weeks. And then they started you filling in for us. So you had to do like a 180 in your sleep schedule, and go from getting off the air at 2:00 in the morning to getting up at 2:00 in the morning.
That morning schedule is not fun either. It changes your whole life and routine.
Yeah, I got to go right into that, B, because this became part of your life for over 20 years of doing that sleep pattern. And I only did it for 2. And I never grasped the concept of saying to myself, okay, I got to be in bed by 9:00. I've got to get to sleep, get up at 4, and really embrace and make that change. How long did it take you to kind of get into that? And nowadays, I don't think you miss getting up at the crack of dark ever again, I would think.
Well,
we still get up.
We still get up at 3 a.m. Usually I have to go to the bathroom now, but it used to be for, that's the one thing people say, oh man, you got a cool job, you all that blah, blah, blah. And it is, we loved it. But I got to tell you something, man, getting up at the crack of dawn at 3:00 ain't easy. And I was doing Monday Night Football too back in the day. So I would have to go home Monday afternoons, take a longer nap because I wouldn't get out with the great Bill Berge, who you did football with as well.
The Eagles.
I got out there 11:00. And when you're doing nights, if you couldn't fall asleep, you could sleep in a little. I had nights where I would go to bed at 9:00, sleep really hard till midnight, and then I couldn't fall back to sleep. And then part of Julie and I lived together with my mom's blessing when I went to Dallas, because one of the things before we got married, I said to her, I want to see if you can handle my schedule. There were days where I left at 3:00 in the morning. I wouldn't see her till 11:00 at night.
We would have Lucky Charms in the kitchen at 3:30. He'd walk out the door. I wouldn't see him until 7, 8 o'clock that night while he was working, and we'd have dinner together. And then I'd go home and get things ready because then he'd come home at 10, 11 o'clock at night.
Did you ever get used to that, Rob?
No. I as much as I tried to, it just never gelled. I was struggling just to get 4 or 5 hours of sleep, and then I would nap for 2 hours afterwards. And that's not healthy. And I noticed that my dietary habits got worse because my sleeping habits were just so out of whack.
I've lost 60 pounds, no lie, since I stopped doing morning radio. Because you don't sleep well. You live on caffeine. A lot of times your breakfast is, wah-wah.
Quick, on the go.
On the go. Calorie. You come home, you sleep. Again, you got to go back out. So you grab a little something to eat. I wasn't working out. Literally, since I stopped doing mornings, I lost 60 pounds. And again, too, when you talk about personal relationships and things like that, try to date when you have to be in bed at 9 o'clock, and that's why Julie and I, we were together, 30 years before we got married because, again, hey, you want to go out tonight? Can't, man. Can't. Got to be in bed at 9 o'clock.
I was actually okay with it. It was more of my friends who wanted to get to know Johnny B, and they could not understand why he wasn't always on my arm, because it's like he can't keep up this pace. Or if he did come, we would duck out.
It's definitely not something I recommend to do that sleep pattern for too long. But yeah, you look a lot better. I remember you when you were a little heavier. So in one sense,
it's harder than people realize.
No, yeah, I think that's the thing. People, they want to glamorize, and they should. There's some great morning talents that have been out there. And John, you did it in two areas, and I'll recommend in the Delaware Valley, WSTW and WJBR. What a lot of people don't know, it's more than just Wilmington. He was also serving Delaware and Chester counties. You put that whole region together, that's about 2 million people he was reaching. And in the Dallas suburbs of Collin and Denton County, you put them together, you're talking well over 2 million people that he was reaching on a regular basis. So you not only were doing it on a higher level and a higher pressure, and then you take in the lack of sleep. It's like, well, it's any wonder that your hairdo is like mine now, but that's another story altogether.
I still love him.
Thank God that, thank God she caught me in my good days, and what a lot of people don't know about Julie and I, we actually decided when we were going to get married that it was only fitting to get married on April 1st. We actually got married on April Fool's Day.
God, you sick people. You're just sick.
Yeah, I was a fool to marry a morning show DJ.
Oh, but I do know one little tidbit. I was going to wait for random shots, but I got to throw it in here since we're mentioning you got married on April Fool's Day. Julie, take the lead on this. How did you punk your husband, and very appropriately, on April Fool's Day on your wedding day?
Well, we got married on April 1st, and it was a Wednesday. Got up, did our normal routine, but, I was trying to get things lined up to go, for our special moment that afternoon. Well, he said I was getting a little chirpy to the door and just go. And it's like, well, I want to make sure you've got my sons. The three of you are in communication, because once I'm gone, I'm not going to see you till we're at the chapel. And but he's just like, go, and go have a drink with your girlfriend, whatever. And now keep in mind, this is a girlfriend. We were business associates first. Mm-hmm. And we would always meet after work or after a closing and funding and have one glass of wine. Mm-hmm. Well, that one glass a lot of times turned into one bottle each or 2 bottles of wine. So he's like, just go get your glass of wine with Linda. Well, we did our thing. We were getting ready, and we did. She was so sweet and brought up some champagne for us to have a toast before we went over to the chapel. But I said, look, no drinking a whole bottle. I'm going to be good. I am getting married. But before we knew it, and I was good. I was perfectly fine. We were running a little bit late. And it's like, oh, crap, and it's like, hey, hang on. I got the perfect thing. So one of the photographer even called us. It's like, hey, where are you? And it's like, we're on our way. We're running late. But hey, give me, I contacted my pastor, Doug, and I said, hey, can you do me a favor and help me punk Johnny? Tell him I hit the bottle of wine and had too much.
And that's believable.
And we knew he would believe it. Now, Johnny will have to take over here because Doug said, sure, I got it. And I wasn't there to hear, but he was so much fun and always a fun memory of our wedding day. So
my pastor comes to me a game and he says, hey, we got a little bit of a problem. Jacob, my youngest stepson, was going to play the piano as Julie walked in. He goes, you could still do that. But Jacob, okay, I want you to come around and stand behind your mother. Justin, you get on the other side, because Well, I think they had a little too much to drink, and Julie's having trouble standing up.
Oh, boy.
I'm going, are you kidding me? I told her not to drink that much. Oh my God. Is this a sign from God? What is going on? God, I told her not to do that. So he goes, are you guys ready to go out? And I'm like, yeah. And he goes, oh, Johnny, before you go out, beside you getting married today, what is today? And I go, it's April Fool's Day. And he goes, exactly. And smiles at me. And I go, my own pastor punked me. I can't because I'm in church. So you know what? I throw my hands up. Here we go. Here's how we get off to a good start. All right. And I said, you got me. The master. The master. So yes, that was my punk day. And it made for a great radio story and a great topic. You know, what happened to you on your wedding day?
And that's the one thing I've known about your morning show. I mean, when you did it at STW, you had three other moving parts. You had Jill Coyle, you had the man we love to call Senor Grande, Don Bolts, and you had Bob Carroll. And the one thing, Big Don, we love the Big Don, making that work is not the easiest thing to do when you're dealing with three other components. What was the key to making that success? We'll get to KLAK in a second, but this was different than the KLAK morning show. So when you're working with three other people and trying to make that synergy work as you walked into the show, what was the key to all that?
You know, luckily, before, when John Wilson was doing mornings before me, when John would go on vacation, I would sit in with the morning show. So I got to know them a little bit in that week that I did it. I kind of knew Jill's story, you know, coming in, she's a mom, you know, things like that. Big Don is one of these people who is just funny being himself, and he doesn't know he's funny. And Bob had the most intelligent, driest sense of humor. But you're right, kind of picking out a topic, you know, and this goes to what we talk about of what people don't see before you hit the air. You talk about what you're going to do. You talk about whose story it's going to be, who's going to lead. And then you kind of just leave a leeway for natural conversation to happen. And that's really it. I worked with so many at STW and we worked with so many talented people, but that morning show, everybody knew their part. They were a great component. And I'll tell you one of the funniest stories of Big Don just being Big Don. We used to do this thing called Old School where we would quiz Big Don on a song. And Big Don really didn't know a lot about music. He really did. It's Olivia Newton-John's birthday. So the song was Physical, and we would say, Big, we pick up the rock and roll encyclopedia. This artist falls between this blues, play him a little slip, and he would guess it. So he guessed it, and he was so happy. So he comes back in for his next segment with us, and Big Bob says to him, and this is totally unrehearsed, wow, Big, you're smiling. You look really happy. And he goes, why are you so happy? Big, without even thinking, without even pausing, says, well, any day you can nail Olivia Newton-John, it's a good day. And we all went, oh. And he goes, whoa, wait a minute. I mean, anytime you can guess the song. It was just hysterical. And if you knew Big Don, it's even more funny. And I remember per se, I just, after it was all over, I looked at Bob and I'm like, that's the morning promo, man. Do not lose that.
I remember they talked about that for a couple of weeks. That people remembered that. And that's always a great thing when you're doing a morning show. When you have that was so unrehearsed, so natural, and now everybody just kept talking about this. And that's like, yes, the best feeling in the world because we didn't even rehearse this. This was just so, it happened. It was beautiful.
There was one morning, another thing too that was funny. We were talking about some stuff and really wasn't flying a lot. And another great person we worked with was Robin Bryson, who was the dean of traffic. He knew every road in Delaware. And we were going into traffic, and I said, hey, Rob, I said, what's up with the geese at DuPont Barley Mill 141? There's a pond on the other side of the road. I sat through 3 traffic lights as they crossed the road. I'm going to be late for my doctor's appointment because of geese crossing the road. Of course, Rob, being the Delaware historian, goes in, well, they've been there for years upon years. A game after that, our phones lit up with everybody with their favorite geese story of the ducks crossing the road to Devon Parley's mill. And, we seriously, for 20 minutes, we took calls on people's funniest duck stories. So, you never know, man. That was the joy of it and the greatness of it, is that it could turn on a dime like that. Right. And that's when the shows were good. I mean, you have to plan and you talk and things, but when they were spontaneous, that's what made it great.
Since you talk about turning on a dime, this is the last thing I want to talk about with STW, because I think this was a turning point for the morning show. Johnny had taken over the show, and probably less than a year into the show, 9/11 happened. And talk about turning a show on a dime. Not the easiest thing to do when all of a sudden you go from, hey, we're trying to entertain you and play music, suddenly now it's all about the news. It's all about what's going on and the unknown. I would imagine when you look back in your career, hardest day ever having to do a radio show.
It's amazing. We had the Weather Channel on, and I had a friend who was an EMT at Cranston Heights Fire Hall, and he calls me and he says, Johnny, what's going on in New York? We just got a call to go there. Just stand by. A plane has hit the tower. Jill goes flying because on the other side of the building was WDEL, our news station.
Yeah.
I flick on ABC, and this is all going down. All going down. And it's happening right in front of us. And you're like, oh my God, this is World War III. Yeah. We really talked a little bit about it, but, we still didn't know everything. When people ask me, and I've been interviewed, and they say, when did you think your career had really made a difference? And when did people give you feedback about that? A game, it was September 12th, because Jill, we live in one of the biggest airspaces in a while, and it was so deadly quiet at 3:00 when they shut down air traffic. And Jill Quayle called me and said, what do we do tomorrow? What do we do? And I said, you know what? We just got to be ourselves. We just got to talk. And that's what we did. We suspended regular format. We played a lot of patriotic, a lot of uplifting songs. I remember, playing Tom Petty, I Won't Back Down, or just everything that uplifted people. People shared their story. We had kids call in. I will remember September 12th is probably one of the most meaningful days in my career, that I felt like people called in and says, just good to hear familiar voices today and things like that. So that one will always be etched in my memory.
Amen. Johnny B with his wife Julie B are here on the A Game. John and Julie met up when he came to the Dallas suburbs. As a matter of fact, photo number 1, so we give props to his old station, 97.5 KLAK. Now, a lot of people in Dallas may not have realized this station because they were really serving the Dallas burbs, the 2 counties above Dallas. Like I said, over 2 million people are living in that area. So you already had a distinct advantage of going from a suburban radio station that was super serving the Delaware Valley just south of Philly by about 30 miles. Suddenly, you're 30 miles above Dallas, super serving, again, a suburban area. I would imagine all that experience from there really helped, because you always taught me, even in that area, especially in Wilmington, it was about, if you don't put yourself in the community, if you don't connect with the people outside the airwaves, you're never going to win in this market. And I would imagine that whole theory you took to Dallas suburbs to make it work.
Yeah, I definitely replicated it. And I tell you, about 1.5 to 2 years in, I met Julie.
It was a year.
Was it a year?
Yeah.
See, I don't remember.
It was pretty early in the career.
I can tell you that she helped me greatly, because I had never been to Texas. I'd never been in that situation. I mean, I could have years, and all of a sudden, going into a place that I knew nowhere, what was there.
You didn't even know anybody.
Right.
Julie kind of helped me say, hey, here's what you have to do in McKinney. Here's what you have to do in Frisco. Here's what you have to do in Allen. Here's what you have to do north of here. Because Collin and Grayson counties were very different counties.
Very different. Collin County is a lot like Dallas and the suburb, but you just go 15 miles north, you're into Grayson County. You're into the small Texas towns, the cowboys, the pickup trucks that their weekends are on the ranch taking care of their horse and goats. And I mean, just totally different worlds, you know, but the Dallas Metroplex just keeps growing. So it is growing on into Grayson County, but you just go and before you know it, you're in the country again and very different personalities.
Rob, how many Saturdays was I coming back from an appearance and you were coming in to pick up the van to go out and do an afternoon appearance?
No,
you and I talked about it when we worked together. It's an inside outside. Yeah. I mean, we would work 6 days a week. You know, 5 on the air, and we always had appearances, but we were always out shaking hands. We never separated ourselves from the people. We were two guys that always believed we just had two high profile jobs. We didn't think we were better than anybody. We love talking to people. We love getting feedback, good and bad. It helped us, but that's what we did. We hit the streets. I ran for mayor of McKinney and mayor of the surrounding places, and not officially, but I mean, you know, I was out just about everywhere. Took on a couple charities, but my wife really was inspirational in showing me the landscape of what I needed to do. It would have taken me longer. You
dressed up more this event where you need to get some boots to wear with your jeans. You know, I had to kind of help them with that.
So and it was funny that the funniest thing one time, there was a water main break in town. So I get on the air and I say, hey, avoid this street right now. There's a water main break. And I get an email from a couple that said, you know, I got an email from a couple that said, Johnny B, you know, we listen to you every day. We've loved when you came to Texas. And the thing the guy wrote and said, I said to my wife, you know, he really doesn't sound like a Yankee. He goes, until today, when you said water main break, I looked at my wife in the car and said, what the hell did he just say? So, yeah, but I met a lot of great people there that I still have a lot of great friendships with. In fact, we did, when we were on JBR on New Year's Eve, Julie and I did an all request show, and we had a lot of people call in actually from Texas who were streaming the show, and they made requests. So it was night because it was like the best of both places. I lived with friends from Delaware who called in.
I never thought the phones would, I mean, for 3 solid hours, they were ringing, and it was people from everywhere. We even had a couple of my old classmates from Indiana. So, I mean, that's the neat thing about radio. And when you have connected with people in relationships, I mean, of course, we had people in this area calling, but we had people back home from Texas, but even Indiana, you just never know. And that is a neat thing about radio and communication is it's an avenue to keep everybody connected and bonded.
Amen to that. And when it comes to radio these days, Johnny, I'm going to put a photo number 2 because this is the last station you were at recently at the legendary 98 Rock in Baltimore. And I know from your background and where you grew up, this is the one where you sat there and went, look, I don't mind just doing weekends because this is the station I grew up with. So a chance to kind of go there and do whatever I can do, I'm going to enjoy it. I know you're not really doing much with them now. I know things have changed, but it's also people need to understand that sometimes you're driving an hour and a half, and I did it. I traveled to Philadelphia for a year to do weekends on a station called WDRE back in the 90s. So I understand that, and it does wear on you, even if it's only for one day. I mean, obviously, you're not going to regret the experience because it gave you, hey, I was on 98 Rock. They can't take that away from you no matter what. But not having radio in your life, how are you adjusting?
I grew up in Baltimore.
And go ahead, go with Baltimore.
I grew up in Baltimore. So I remember when 98 Rock came on the air in 77. It was the rock station of Baltimore. So when I got the opportunity to do some weekends there, it was great, man. I mean, you know, and I was kind of at the point of my life and my career that I was it was it was really going to take something to shake the tree to get back in full time. It's just a lot of work, getting up early, working weekends. I don't get a chance to spend with Julie. We don't, have a lot of time together, but it was great. I mean, you walk in a studio, it's like $4 million studio. We got cameras everywhere to look out over the city. Friends chimed in the first time I got to say 98 Rock, and it was really cool. So I kind of sat there and got back into radio done right. I mean, they do it well down there. It's a unique situation in this day and age that Hearst, the owner of that, has tons of TV stations, but that and WBAL are the only two stations they own. So a lot of the decisions can be made in-house, which you and I know is not the case anymore. But
that's true.
To kind of, if I'm going to wind it up in my hometown was pretty cool to do. I'm laughing because I remember I did work in Baltimore part-time at WOCT, which was actually, it's right down the street from 98 Rock when it was Classic Rock 104.3. And I had to come up Malden Avenue to make a right-hand turn to get to Hooper Avenue, and so I would always pass OCT, and I saw that building. Julie came to work with me one night, and I said, that's where I used to work. And every time I pass by that building, I laugh because there's a story that goes along with that building that I don't know if I will ever live down. And it caused an event, a game that changed my life.
And that was, as he takes a sip of water.
Okay. I'm glad you asked.
It's like
I've told you this story, but it's legendary. This is a legendary one. So we're at the Baltimore Inner Harbor stage, and the legendary guitarist Dave Davies from the Kinks is doing a show. Now, Dave Davies is a great guitarist. When you think about who he's influenced, Edward Van Halen. I mean, You Really Got Me, Where Have All the Good Times Gone? They were all Kinks songs. Ed said Dave Davies was one of my favorite. Well, there's one element to the Kinks legacy that Ray and Dave Davies, who are brothers, hate each other. They make the Gallagher brothers from Oasis look like Girl Scouts. I'm telling you that right now, okay? They hate each other. So it was taken forever to get Dave Davies on stage. So I'm not going to lie, I had a couple Coronas in me that night before I get up to announce them, and it's a hot August night. So, before I go on, his manager, this little British guy, goes, Johnny, you're bringing Dave on, right? Listen, you can't say his brother's name. Don't say he and his brother Ray formed the Kinks. Just name him. If you say Ray, he won't go on. Can you work with me? Can you do this? No problem, man. No problem. So meet Dave. We're walking up the ramp. I sound like Tom Cruise and Rain Man. Don't say Ray. Don't say Ray. Johnny, don't say Ray. Don't say Ray. So get out there. They're ready to they get on the stage. Everybody starts cheering. And, we do our spiel that we've done so many times, game. Hey, man, I'm Johnny B from WOCT, Classic Rock in Baltimore. We got a guitar legend ready to rock Charm City tonight. He's been laying down licks since 1965, influenced the likes of Edward Van Halen and more. And I got to that point, and I forgot who I was introducing because I had blocked out the Ray and Dave thing, and I think the 6 Coronas hit me right at the same time. And remember the legendary Southwest Airline commercials, Want to Get Away? I'm like this. And all of a sudden, luckily, I had a little bit of brain cells left that kicked in. And I said, you know what? I always get to introduce the guy. So I want you to give him a Baltimore welcome. When I say 1, 2, 3, please welcome. You yell his name. Come on, Baltimore. 1, 2, 3, please welcome. And the crowd goes, Dave Davies. And he goes, boom, 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 boom. So I'm walking off the stage, and his manager's at the end of the ramp, and he goes, mate, that was brilliant. That was brilliant. Oh, you just made my night. He's going to rock. Oh, thank you so much. And I go, yeah, you know what? I thought I'd do a little something different tonight. So yeah, that I'm glad you like it. I'm gonna leave now and change my underwear, okay? And I swear to God, and Julie can back me up on this, A game. After that night, even before our summer jams and anything we had to do together, I would not drink before.
Whether it was a casual outdoor event, because we did this Real Large Smiles charity concert where he's stage manager. I mean, he's introduced Gavin DeGraw,
Andy Grammer,
Brett Michaels. I mean, big time names. And it's like an outdoor barbecue type thing. He won't drink. He will not drink.
I would MC like a chamber event. They're like,
Black
Johnny,
Tide, you get 2 tickets for wine.
Johnny, you can have a glass of wine at dinner. Nope, I'll just take water.
I take his tickets.
Julie got crocked because she took all my tickets, and she's like, I
drank my tickets and his at the formal.
I swear to God, all the times we got up as the Big Kahuna or shows we did, I wouldn't have a drink till I'm like, do I have to say anything else tonight? No, Johnny, you're good. Good. Now, line up 7. But, I swear to God, I scared myself straight that night.
And the sad part is you've set me up, because when I do my random shots pick, I will take a drink for the random shots. The random shot tonight will be James Carroll. See, you set me up beautifully there.
By the way, I'm not drinking either of this.
I know you're not, which is smart, because these questions can come from anywhere. And besides, I've known Johnny for 20 plus years, so I'm not going to embarrass him too much. But Skull here. And thank you for coming on. Needed that. Okay.
There's not much more you can do, man.
No, not at all. All right, so I got a couple of pick one questions, and this first one is going to be interesting. I think I know what you're going to pick, but I'm not sure. I'm going to give you the choice of Baltimore Orioles playoff tickets, because I think they're going this year. Or you're going to get 50-yard line seats. Yeah. Here's the or, though. 50-yard line seats for the Army-Navy game. Pick one.
Army-Navy.
You know what? My dad was in the Navy, and we had so many great times at Army-Navy.
Yeah. And
it's unlike any other football game you will ever see in your life. I had one of the biggest thrills of my life, as you know. I got to fly with the Blue Angels.
Yes, you did.
But given the fact that the Orioles have been, over the last decade, 5 years away
Rangers.
From being 12. Yeah, Texas is having a great year, too.
Yeah, her Texas
So
Rangers,
we're hoping it's a Baltimore Orioles, Texas Rangers American League playoff series, but even with that A game, it's tough to turn down the pageantry of Army-Navy. I'm taking Army-Navy.
I had a feeling. And it's amazing. Not only are they rivals in baseball, but they're also, one's an Eagles fan, one's a Cowboys fan, and they coexist. It's amazing to me. Okay, with that in mind, we have another pick one for you. This is either you're going to pick the Delaware beaches, or you're going to pick Christmas in upstate Delaware. And I know that's a tough one, too.
Ooh, the Smith House.
As a matter of fact,
I'm going to let you pick this one.
While she's thinking about that, Ming, can you scroll down? I want to get the Smith House photo. I think I have that. It's not number 12. It's is it 11? No, I don't. No, maybe it is. Flash 11. I'll make sure. Yes, that's it. The Smith House is a tourist attraction. Yeah. And by the way, John and Julie don't live far from here, but this is a place. Yeah. But it's a place that draws from literally New Jersey, upper Pennsylvania. It'll draw people from New York. It's just that good of a situation. And there's a couple other places up in the region. As a matter of fact, if you go to photo 13, if you ever thought about Christmas at Winterthur, that's another place where you talk about. That's why I had to say the holidays, knowing that the region up there in Wilmington and around is just so beautiful for the holidays. So it is a tough choice because of Rehoboth Beach and Bethany on the other end.
What are you picking there, Julie?
I would probably say Christmas.
Yeah, I got to say Christmas. The Smith House has been legendary. I know the Smith family. They work on my cars.
They've even shared their story behind that, or do you know that, A-Game?
No, actually, I don't. No, please elaborate.
Do you know the story why they decorate the house?
No, believe it or not, after all this time, I don't. I should, but I don't.
Yeah, I actually know the family, and they said when they lost their mom, Mom Smith was like huge on Christmas. That was her time of year. So
Right.
This is very touching. They say they decorate the house so Mom can see it from heaven.
Oh, that explains that. And you can tell it's done with a lot of love. I was there minute.
So with that story that we know,
got to do it.
Yeah, oh yeah.
Yeah. The Bees doing random shots here on the A Game. Give me photo number 6, Ming. Now this photo, it's Julie, and there's this Jersey guy named Martin. The reason I bring this up, some people know this, some people don't. Johnny, you've done some work. I don't know if it's direct or indirect with NASCAR. I know you've done work at Dover International Speedway. You've done it at Texas Motor Speedway. Are you still doing that?
Yeah, every once in a while when Gary Camp, who is the PR guy at Dover, has been a good friend of mine. We did a lot of stuff at STW. I'm a huge NASCAR fan. Julie wasn't at first, but we created her. The thing that is so funny about that Martin Truex, Julie, we wanted to meet Martin, so we hung out by his trailer. We had all access passes because we were doing some stuff that day. And we hung out by his hauler. Never saw him leave. Julie's bummed out. She wants to meet Martin. A-Game, we go into the press center. And after driver introductions, Martin had to use the bathroom before he crawled in his car. So he comes walking in. And we're like, hey, Martin. I had like my Truex Foundation shirt on.
Well, he remembered Johnny from one of the previous races.
He's like, hey, he goes, I said, can Julie get a picture? He goes, let me go to the bathroom. So he goes to the bathroom, comes out, we snap the picture, and I mean immediately that crawls into the 19 and starts the race.
Nice. I love that. That's such a great story.
So thank God to Martin Truex. Ladder, we got to meet him.
Amen. Let me have photo number 4, Ming, and this is Joe frickin' Walsh with Johnny B, and he's a big fan of NASCAR. But my question is going to be more music related when it comes. We all know the Eagles, great band, and we know great music, Johnny. But when it comes to just bad, well, actually, I won't even say bad. There's that one song in our collection we're embarrassed to have, but it's a guilty pleasure. What is yours?
Oh God, there's a story behind this one too, A-Game. Yeah. I'm going to tell you that I have been in love with Karen Carpenter since I was a kid. All right, I don't care if anybody wants to fight me over it. I loved Karen Carpenter. The one song or the one CD that probably people would, after they see Van Halen and all my classic rock and my funk collection, there's going to be the Carpenters' greatest hits. And we're taking a road. We used to drive up to Maryland to see my mom. We're heading back. We're in Tennessee.
Right.
I'm listening to it in the car. Julie is sleeping. As I come around this turn on the mountain, Julie pops up out of a dead sleep and starts going, I'm on the top of the world looking down on creation. It scared the living hell out of me so bad that I almost ran off the mountain. And I said, you just did 2 things. You scared me and you interrupted Karen Carpenter. Don't ever do that again. So, yes, the Carpenters.
Yeah, that's definitely a guilty pleasure. I'll give you that. It trumps me with the Xanadu soundtrack, so you win on that one, bud. Got 2 more here in the random shots.
Hey, any day you can nail Olivia Newton-John, it's a great day.
Right back to John from earlier.
Gene Kelly was also in it.
Yes, he was. Very good, Jim. One of the last ones Gene Kelly ever did, as a matter of fact. Ming, give me...
I like my classic movie.
Ming, let me have photo 9 first. Now, the reason I bring this up, this is a football stadium. Right. Now, this is a little bit of home for them. Now, give me photo number 10 behind it. you would not believe this, but the first one was McKinney High School. I say high school football stadium. This is Allen High School's stadium.
Yes.
One of them seats 18,000. And I remember Johnny telling me this, and one of the stadiums, I think, and it may have been the McKinney one that's now up, cost nearly $70 million to construct. So I have never really understood the whole phenomenon of Friday Night Lights, but you were right in the center of it. So for people who don't know, since you were in the middle of it, both of you, explain the whole Friday Nights phenomenon and high school football in Texas.
$72 million built that stadium. The Allen Eagles Stadium, again, I went to Texas saying this has just got to be a bunch of hype. It can't be this way.
Right.
Oh my God. The town shut down. The teams have these big mascot tunnels. It's like a KISS show. I mean, there's explosions going off. And the funniest thing with the McKinney, Julie, our stepson Jake, or my stepson, her actual son,
actually played football, but he's more of a musician. So because he's so tall and lanky, so and I had him in football his freshman year, but after his freshman year, he's like, Mom, I don't want to do this. And right. Even though I wanted him to learn the team sport, because there is a lot of good that is with a good, positive, productive team, doesn't matter what it is, there's life skills. And I wanted him to get those. But he was getting a little banged up. And here's where I'll hand off to Johnny, because looking back, I did the right thing, or I probably would not have a son,
Justin Matabuke, who plays defensive tackle for the Baltimore Ravens, went to McKinney North High School.
Sophomore.
And this kid, you knew it as a sophomore, was going to play Saturdays and maybe Sundays. And right. Jacob I come in the door one day, Jacob comes limping in, holding his ribs. And I go, what happened? He goes, oh, man. I was late for second period. I was running around the corner and I ran into Justin Matabuke.
And he literally bounced off him and bruised his ribs.
Rob, during the NFL draft, I was napping on the couch. And Julie goes, Johnny, wake up, Johnny, wake up. I thought the place was on fire. I go, what? And she goes, the Ravens just drafted Justin Matabuke. So Justin Matabuke went from McKinney North to Texas A&M. And they got drafted by the Ravens, and he's having a great, time. So he plays for the Baltimore Ravens, but we've known him since he's been a sophomore.
Justin Matabuke was a sophomore, but the junior year was Ronald Jones, and he went to USC or UCF?
Went to USC.
But he actually has 2 Super Bowl rings. He played with Tom Brady and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and then he
played for the Kansas City Chiefs last year.
With Matt Patrick.
And now he just got signed by the Cowboys, so he gets to come home.
Trouble right
but
now.
Yeah, he's suspended for 2 games. So we don't say we know him. No.
Both those kids we watched grow up on Friday night, the Friday Night Lights. And that's the neat thing is when you see these high schoolers and they're big. I mean, man, they could snap even though Jacob was as tall as they were, he was just a beanpole though.
Right.
But it's like you just watch them grow up and play. And then Johnny worked sidelines, interviewed, talked to them. There were other players that he would mentor, behind the scenes.
Yeah, Kyler Murray went to Allen. So and he was Gatorade Player of the Year. And he went to Allen High School, so we saw him play, and it's amazing. I mean, the culture of it, the student section, the fans, the parents.
That's what my son, when he quit football, he became the leader of the student section, and he developed, a good, fun reputation, doing the face paint, the cowboy hat, and everything, and that's what it's about, because it's more than just football. But it's the spirit, the drill teams, the marching bands, the drum lines.
Incredible.
It's just, there's so many facets to it. And it's not just football, but it's talent put into it.
Yeah, and then the Dallas Cowboys moved their offices to Frisco. And part of the coming to Frisco, Texas, which was just south of us, is that they build is it west of us? Mm-hmm. Use GPS. Where am I going? 13,000 seat indoor stadium that all the high schools in Texas get to play in. So, I played on a field that had more rocks and holes in it, and these kids are playing in 13,000 seat indoor stadiums. It is amazing. Friday Night Lights, it is the real deal.
Amen. And glad to know that. One last question in random shots, and we'll wrap it up. And yes, Julie, I'm setting him up on this because first off, September 2nd, we'll kick off the season of college football. It will be on NBC. It will be Penn State against the University of West Virginia. Now, I know B's going to root for West Virginia, but there is a way he has always said West Virginia. If you say, oh, you're from West Virginia, Johnny, please explain how you would talk about West Virginia, please.
West Virginia is near and dear to my heart because I got to go to WVU, and it was totally by accident. I got to play some sports there when they were actually recruiting somebody else. God knows I just had a good game. So, but I got to tell you something. West Virginia was a total education for me. When I would meet people from West Virginia, I met a kid on my hall, said, hey, why don't you guys come back to my farm for a weekend? And Grandpa had a still, and I'm thinking this is Mayberry RFD, Grandpa, they go out on the four-wheelers, and Grandpa's like, it ain't quite done yet. And I mean, the nose hairs are burning from me just going. And my father would always say, hey, what'd you do this weekend? I said, I went to this kid's farm and saw his grandfather still. And he's like, what? I'm like, yes. So I love the mountains. It's beautiful, beautiful place. John Denver was right. Almost heaven. But yes, West Virginia is, I've been to the.
He caught out. Johnny. All right, we're about to wrap up anyhow. I'll see if I can get him back just so we can say goodbye. But the point I was trying to make was this. Every time I've ever said West Virginia to him, he'd be like, oh, you mean almost heaven, West Virginia? That's the deal. I'm going to text him real quick. But if I don't get him back, I want to say, Johnny B and Julie, thank you so much for coming on the podcast today. And by the way, any of his fans in the Delaware Valley or in the Dallas suburb area, thank you for tuning in. And it was definitely a pleasure to have both of them on there tonight. You know what? We'll just call it a wrap right there. That's it for the A game. I'm Rob Akampora. Kind of an abrupt ending. Sorry about that. Sorry about some of the technical problems, but we got through it. I'll be back again very, very soon, hopefully in the next couple weeks for the 100th episode of this damn podcast. I didn't think we'd get here, but we got here. Thanks for being a part of episode 99. Take care of yourself. See ya.